You're listening to STAGR Cast, brought to you by STAGR Gear.
All right, another episode of STAGR Cast, and this is the first episode we've done in the Adirondacks or Adirondack theme stuff. Everything else has been, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, all that stuff. So it's good to be over here. A lot of guys requesting that we do some Adirondack stuff. And we're with our most requested group by a long shot, I think, which is the ADK Tracker group. We got Eric Boek, we got Hunter Bob, Woody, Chris. Yep, I forgot. Sorry, I'm not good with names. My bad.
God damn it, Adam.
I know, I screwed that up.
Yeah.
But the whole gang's here tonight, and we got two mics on the guys, so we're just gonna kind of keep it cycling and keep it fun, and keep the stories going. But for those that don't know you guys, living under a rock, haven't seen you guys' videos. Why don't you give us a little intro on yourself, what you do, kind of how you got into hunting, the territories you roam, all that type of stuff.
Well, so I was born and raised in Westernville, New York, which is probably half an hour or so outside the Adirondacks. Moved to Boonville after I got out of college in Paul Smith's and landed here. And my father bought a camp in the Adirondacks in 1990. So I started hunting up there with one of his best friends, Gary, who had a camp maybe 7-8 miles down the road. And so grew up hunting in the farmland and loved killing deer. My dad was always killing great big bucks. And we actually, even though it was farm ground, we had enough down there to where you could track bucks. We had a pretty good setup down there. And so he taught me, basically the ins and out of it young, how to do this stuff. And once I went to college, my dad and Gary, they started killing these great big bucks up at my dad's camp, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to kill them great big bucks, so I started focusing more and more in the big woods of the Adirondacks and putting more time in up there versus being in the farmland, and just became basically addicted to it. And
to say the least.
Yeah, I love it. It's an addiction, so that's how things started. I'm an arborist by trade. I was a state trooper here in New York for 10 years and just didn't like the political aspect of that and gave it up, and now I can hunt the whole deer season every year and never look back. So
that's awesome. Yeah, you guys are working your ass off through the summer, so you get the whole month off, right, for the most part.
Yeah, I do basically a year's worth of work in 6 months, pretty much.
Seems to be
summer.
A common denominator with big buck killers.
Yep.
They bust their butts all summer so they can have that month or two to just focus.
It's a work ethic. Because we're just running out there and shooting one the first day. You're going to have to put in 2-3 weeks probably every year to maybe get a glimpse at a good buck. And if you get discouraged or easy, or you don't have the work ethic, it's not probably going to pan out for you.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
So how did you guys all come together as a group originally, and how did that all? Because you guys are one hell of a group. A lot of great personalities and a great camp dynamic.
Yeah. So I'm real good friends with Woody's brother Slick, and Slick always hunted with us at camp all the time. Woody was in college, and he started coming up a lot more, and Slick ended up working a lot more, so me and Woody started hunting together a bunch. And I ran into Hunter Bob at the bars there now and then, and knew who he was, but we didn't really talk much. But one night we sat down together and started talking about hunting, and we were kind of not disclosing locations to each other for a reason. And he says to me, he goes, you want to hunt bucks this winter or this fall? He says, give me a call. I said, all right, So this was I believe it was my first year.
I think my actual words were, if you want to learn how to shoot big bucks, you just come with me.
I think he was probably more like, if you want to drag a buck.
Yeah. Hey, if you feel like dragging deer, come with me.
Yeah. So that year, actually, one of the first times I hunted on snow, I was with my dad that day, and we were way back up in by these big lakes, and I heard 2 shots, and I'm like, man, that's got to be that Kratzenberg, So I got out that night to service, and I texted him. I said, was that you that shot today? And he goes, no. He says, I'm in Kansas, but he goes, I'm coming home tomorrow. Let's kill a buck. I said, all right. So that next day, I met up with him. Me and Squirrel went up there and met up with him, and he missed a big buck. And like after that, it was like just go time. We just started slaying them. And then I shot a big buck one day. We were hunting this other location, and we went up to this. Bob says, we got to go up to this tent camp. I said, all right. So we go up to this tent camp, and that's where we met Chris and Rick, and I mean everybody up there. There was like 7 of them up there, and we shot a great big buck, and we deemed him the 100 beer deer, which it should have been more like the 200 or 300 beer deer probably.
You guys got a few deer like that, don't you?
Yeah, you got to celebrate.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what you work for.
Absolutely. So what about you, Hunter Bob? So why don't you give a little intro on yourself, and we'll go from there.
I was born and raised right in Forestport. Started hunting on my own. My dad died when I was young, and he gave me his old shotgun when I was like 14 years old. He says, here you go. And he goes, you won't use it as much as you think you will. And it's like, oh, yeah, I will. And from that day on, it was, I don't know how many deer. It was old Hamilton and Richards single-shot shotgun.
Yep.
I'd shoot at deer. That thing couldn't hit a piece of plywood at 50 feet, you know. And so then I bought my first gun, and away I went.
Which he still kills deer with to this day.
Yeah.
Wow, it also doubles as a bow or a walking stick.
My rifle, these guys boss on me all the time. My rifle's. I was gonna bring it, and I should have. I mean, this thing is. It's not much of a gun.
Seen war. Yeah.
The forearm's falling off it. It's cracked. It's glued together. There's no bluing left on the gun. The thing is. I went out to Alaska one time. The guy looks at me. He goes, "You don't have a better gun than that?" I go, "Yeah, I got a lot better guns than this." I said, "But I like this gun."
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
He bragged about his $2,000 rifle that he had with him, and guess what? It jammed after his first shot, and he didn't kill his bull moose.
Yep.
No kidding. Wasn't it? I saw something on your Instagram. Wasn't it like one of the first years you guys hunted, you killed like almost identical bucks or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Was that hunt?
2 8-pointers, no brow points.
No, it was that year. I ended up, 8-pointers, no brow tines, and we were in the local buck club, and which I'm going to add in his brother owns, and Bob ended up beating me by 2/8 of an inch or something
Hey,
like that.
I do that.
Yeah. So he got me on another one with that one.
Huh.
But
Hunting the same kind of block of woods, like were those deer actually related, you think, or they're
no, we were a long ways apart.
No, just the way it happened to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were 15 miles apart, probably.
Oh, no
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool.
When Bob killed his, he gets more excited than any person I've ever met in my life, and he'll be tracking a buck, and he'll have the radio, and he'll be like, you got to get here, he's going this way, and it's like, I'm like 4 miles from there, and it's like.
We track them all day long. We track them from
know.
10 in the morning till, like, I think I ended up killing them at, 2:30 in the
was late.
afternoon.
Yep.
And it was like, man, I said, the buck wasn't going to cross the river. He just kept going in front of me. He just kept walking in front of me. And, I mean, he was right there. I had him in the spots, but and they turned. And it's like, man, finally I just see this little flick. I thought it was a bird. And it's like, and what it ended up being is his hock on his rear leg. And it's like, oh, I go, there he is. And I clicked the safe off, and I stood there for 5 minutes watching him, and then all of a sudden I caught a beam, and it's like, and he was going into the real thick stuff, and it's like, boy, I said, I got to shoot here, or it's going to not happen. I pulled the trigger. He goes, you get him? I go, I have no idea. I walk up there, and that 8-pointer's laying there dead.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, shit.
It was one of the second or third, fourth time we hunted, though, right? I mean,
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I mean, we hunted a lot that season. But dragged that buck out to the river, which the river was kind of high, and I don't do water. I don't swim. And you might better have put this buck in like a 24-ounce beer can in this canoe. And we all got in there, and I'm like, oh, my Lord. I thought we were going to take on water crossing that river. Good time.
You guys do some boat access stuff, too, don't you? Isn't that a thing more in the Adirondacks
All
than
the
anywhere else in
time.
the Northeast?
Yeah, we use their boats a lot.
Yeah.
But we don't have, there's no logging roads and stuff here like there is in maybe Maine or New Hampshire or wherever else, people may hunt. And so if you're going to go in deep in the Adirondacks, you're doing it with the Shoe Leather Express. You're not going to, there's no places really like that you can drive around and cut a buck track. So, you just park and take off, and oftentimes you're in 2 or 3 miles before you even find a buck track, or you may not find one, period, you know.
Yep.
So I think that's, you know, part of the reason it's tougher here than, I mean, they're all tough to kill a buck, but I think adds a little bit here because the access, you know, you can't use anything. So
Yep.
for sure.
So do you guys pretty much now, so when you're going into like a piece like that, are you guys all going into a piece and then breaking off, or do you kind of just go all your separate directions? Because it seems like there's some videos and stuff for like the 3 of you guys, or, you know, linking up at the end of the day to drag a buck out. Are you guys like way off, or you?
Well, what
Depends
we've
on the
started
day.
doing is we'll all drive our trucks separately, and we'll leave them in different spots because you don't know where you're going to come out.
True.
So, you know, depending on,
Our trucks will be 10, 15 miles apart.
Oh, no shit.
And
so you kind of.
so if we get to a certain point and somebody shoots a buck, we're going that way. If next thing you know, you get on a buck's track, you might start 15 miles that way, but you'll end up there, and at least somebody can pick you up.
Yep.
Unless it's the last day of season and you've walked 12, 14, 15 miles and nobody tells you they're not hunting that day. And so you end up walking out in the pitch black an extra few miles.
you needed the exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite videos you guys have, I think it's hilarious when I watch it. I think it was one of your bucks a few years ago, like it was an 11-pointer or something, that you guys took out with a boat, and
Yep.
you guys are coming out in like a snowstorm,
Oh, it
and
was
you
bad.
got your sunglasses on, just sitting there braving everybody else is tucked in. That shit was hilarious. Laughed my ass off when I saw that. But
Yeah, that was a good day.
I think that was the first time I ever was in there. Maybe the
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, I had gone in there. Woody and I had gone in early, bare ground, and put up some cameras. And I told Bob, I go, we'd be stupid if we didn't go in there and hunt at least one day on snow. And I think we were supposed to get the snow at night, and it ended up starting at like 7 in the morning. So we were hunting it, and I found an old buck track, and I had to cross this creek like 3 times. I ended up going over my boots, and I was getting frustrated. Bob's hips were bothering him at the time, and he was about ready to bail out, going back to the boat. And I said, well, the sun, it was all at once. It was gloomy and snowing.
Yeah, it was like
and
11 o'clock in the morning or
Yep.
something. 12
And all of
o'clock.
a sudden, like, the clouds pulled off, the sun came out, and it quit snowing. And I remember just telling him on the radio, I'm like, man, now is the time. Like, they're going to be moving, you know. So I crossed this creek again, or river, whatever it is, and just paralleled this creek. I found a little doe track, and I half thought about just following her backwards because it was that time of year, and I ended up not doing that because it was so thick down in there. She was in the balsams and stuff, and so I cut up, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred yards from the creek and just paralleled it down, and found this great big buck track coming down into the swamp, and took him down in there, and he went into a bunch of alders. And I called Bob, and I said, well, it looks like he's heading, you know, upstream. And Bob's decided to come down in that way, and it just ended up working out, you know.
Yeah, it was perfect because it was all thick balsam, alders, swampy stuff, and there was a big ridge, not big, but 20 feet higher than anything else around. So I climbed up on that, and I go, man, this is the spot. I go, if he's on that buck's track, he told me he's on a big buck's track. I said, if he's on that buck's track and that buck catches wind of him being on his track, he's going to go to high ground. I said, I got up there, and I go, oh, this is perfect. I turned around, and here's that 11-pointer coming right down the ridge, right towards me, right where I thought he'd be coming from. I go, are you kidding me? Bang.
no shit.
Yeah.
Worked out perfect then.
Yep.
That was a beautiful buck too.
But it wasn't
Yeah.
even the buck he was tracking.
Yeah, there
Oh,
was
it wasn't?
two.
No?
Oh, wow.
Ended up there. One went down in this alder bed, and I had cut another track going up, and there was a little bit of size difference between the two, you know, and I was kind of like at the point where, well, what am I going to do here? And Bob ends up shooting, you know. So I went up there, and he's colorblind, and so he's like, "Isn't that blood?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's blood." You
Me
know?
too, buddy.
So
Craig's colorblind too. That's a big theme.
yeah,
It sucks, you know.
It does suck.
Yeah.
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 I think I can spot moving deer better, but I think that helps us. But I think everything else hurts us.
I shot one, well, I didn't even kill the buck, but I shot one years ago, and he was laying right in his bed, and I saw this buck 2-3 times, and every time I saw him, I don't know if he had just one horn or what, but
Yep.
it was his left-hand side, but it would look like my arm, as long as my arm, and I go, fine, and he was rubbing trees like that, and they're huge. And finally I caught him in his bed one day, and I shot, and out of the bed he went, and I went down there and on dry ground.
Yep.
And it's like, I felt around, and then, I mean, you know what blood looks like in your hand from cutting your hand all the time. I go, oh, yeah, that's blood. I'm on my hands and knees for half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. So finally I go get some help, and my buddy comes up there, and he walks in there, and he looks, and he goes, are you kidding me? He goes, look at the blood up on the ridge. 100 yards away, he goes, look at it. He goes, it looks like a sidewalk up there.
Yep.
I go, really? He goes, he goes, no way you haven't killed this buck.
Yep.
I go, awesome. We got up there right to the spot that I had on my hands and knees for 2 hours. No more blood, no more buck, nothing. Don't know what happened to him. They never found him, nothing.
Yeah.
But the trees weren't rubbing no more either, so.
Yeah. Gives you a knot in your stomach because you feel helpless, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. So you guys been hunting together for a while. So how many situations do you think it's been where hunting in a group you've been able to cut deer off? Does it happen often?
I don't think ever that we.
It just seems like it never
Oh,
works.
no, not to cut them off, but usually we never do drives either. But one particular day we said, let's just try to push this, and we did push it. And he shot that big 20-inch 8-pointer.
Yeah, that one.
But that's like the only time ever I think that. We said,
but we'll chat on our. We have some pretty good radios, and we'll talk. And if someone sees basically a lot of times we're on bare ground, so we're just kind of telling each other where we're going. But if we're on snow, if we catch a track, we'll be like, well, his general direction is this way. We'll let each other know. But a lot of times we're a couple miles apart, so it's not like we're hunting 100 yards from each other, walking through the woods, But
that year we started hunting together, and when you first start hunting together, I don't know how much he wants to talk on the radio or whatever. So we're in this one spot, and we're going down through there, and he's on one side of this big flow, and I'm on the other side of the flow, and so we haven't said a word to each other all day long, and it's noon. Mm-hmm. So I sit on this rock, and I'm eating a sandwich, and so I said, I better find out where these guys are. So I call him on the radio, and he tells me where he is, and I said, all right. So now I stand up, and it's all like spruce blowdown, and I'm going through there, and I go, I better see what his intentions are, which way he's headed, so we can meet up or whatever. So I talked to him one more time, and I got my rifle under my arm, and I'm walking along, just putting along there. I look up, and I just had to ask him a question, and he doesn't answer me for like a minute. And I look, and here comes this, I think it's that buck he ended up killing, big rack buck. And I go, holy shit, here he comes. And there's a rock the size of a Volkswagen just a little bit to my left, and the buck is walking right at it. The buck walks behind the rock, so I got the gun under my arm. I got the radio in this hand, so I take the radio and I put it in my pocket, click off the safe, and I'm watching both sides of the rock, which side he's going to come out from. He starts talking on the radio. That buck was like he got shot out of a cannon when he come out of there. I shot 2-3 times at him. That thing, I think he was going so fast. I was scaring him so bad. He's tripping and falling, and I go, man, I hammered him. I got over there. I never touched him.
Just getting the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, he was out of there.
Oh, man.
But that's one time ever since we've been hunting that happened.
Like that muzzleloader buck, though, was.
Yeah, that's
didn't
true.
Even really know. We were all going to be there for one. Mm-hmm. And next, did I see you or talk to you, Woody?
You talked to me, and all our radios were, of course, messed up.
Right.
And so I was going to go towards like the mountain, and I couldn't get across the creek, and I knew Nate was up on that other side towards mud. So I'm like,
Yeah, so we, I knew Nate was on the other side of that road, and I had talked to Woody up until that point. We didn't even know we were all in the same,
Right.
even close. So I'm kind of creeping up through, and I felt like Nate's going to be pissed, I'm going to kind of mouse up in where he is, And I look up in this, it was a strip cut. I'll never forget this. And I look, and I see it. I'm like, what the heck is that way up in there? And wide open. You're not expecting a buck to be out there, And it picks its head up, and I'm like, whoa. But So these strip cuts, it's wide open, and then there's a strip of brush, and it steps into that thick stuff. So I get, I holler to my son Nate on the radio, and I'm like, Nate, that buck is heading right through this one strip. Where are you? He goes, I'm on the other side, Dad. I'm like, no way. And literally within seconds, boom. This is muzzleloader. So I look up there, and here come that buck flying back out of there. Now Nate shot at him, missed him. This buck's hell-bent for the election. He's boiling down this strip cut at me. I'm standing in a skid road. There's no cover. So I just drop to my knees, and I pull up, and I get him in the scope, and I'm like, all right, he's coming straight at me. Just give me a broadside, give me a broadside. And he's boiling, gives me a little bit of broadside, I touch it off. I see him stumble. I knew I hit him. Down in the woods he goes. Well, by this point, Eric kind of gets what's going on because he's already recording and stuff. But he has no idea that it's me and Nate up there. Mm-hmm. At first, he actually thought it was Woody. So now it took a few minutes. We finally get all on the same radio channel. It was beginning of the year or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, I hit him, Boek. I said, he's heading down in. We know the woods real well there. They knew right where to be. So
we both take off running, and we both at the same spot.
So I'm taking this blood trail, and my son Nate was with me, and I said to him, within the first 100 yards, I knew. I'm like, we're gonna have to kill this buck. We're not gonna find him dead. So we're creeping down through hunting. Every now and then I'm pulling up my thing, looking and seeing where we are, and I'm like, he's heading right for the end of this pond. And then, poof.
Yep.
And I feel like I don't remember exactly. I think Eric came on and said, got him. And I'm like, yeah, buddy. But then it was 15, 20 seconds later, I hear another shot. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? You got him or you didn't, Long story short, and it's in one of Eric's videos.
And that was kind of, I guess that's a point where I didn't know where he was going, right? But it's I'm looking at the terrain.
Well, you had a good idea.
Saying there's a pond here, and he's kind of pushing this way, so he's going to be.
Them beaver meadows,
right?
the beaver meadows, it couldn't be any
Right.
better. You got
So,
them boxed in.
I'm literally I carry a little pack saw with me, and I was in these balsams. There's a rabbit hole on the side of this little beaver meadow, and I cut all the tops of these balsams off, standing there, and all of a sudden I hear something behind me, and I turn around, and here's Bob, and I'm like, I don't know if I whistled, but I 100% waved my hand at him, and he starts walking towards me, and I turn around, and here's this buck walking right at me, just breaks out into the edge of this beaver meadow. I'm like, oh my God, Yeah. So
the weird thing was,
dropped him right there, but
Eric finished his buck, Eric and Bob right there. But Woody's brother, Slick, was right. I mean, he wasn't far from there. He was 90 yards.
Yep.
So if that buck chose to turn and go up the other side of the pond, he wasn't getting out of there.
He was screwed either way.
He was in bad trouble.
But it's big country.
It's big country.
But it necks down, and the pond runs one way, and then the flies run the other way, and there's two little beaver ponds or dams where the brush is real thick.
Yep.
There was no doubt that if that buck was down in that country, he was going to come across them flies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of weird that so Eric made it there first, and he nipped out his little shooting lane or whatever. Then there's Hunter Bob creeping up behind him.
He's trying to get in front of him.
What Bob was thinking when he got there. He's like, crap, there's Eric.
No, I mean, I said there was two dams going across there, and he was on the first one. I said, well, I'm getting my ass to the second one. I'll bang, he shoots. It's like, well, there's no sense in going down there.
He goes, what are you shooting at?
But that is a case where kind of all ended up
converging.
By pure accident, because very seldom. I mean,
Well,
we'll
funny
blow
how-
up over a mountain or something, line hunt if it's bare ground or.
Well, you guys all got a good hunter sense of where to be too, and you've been in that woods. And
we know the woods well.
yeah, it's funny how that happens. I've been up in Maine with hunting buddies, and thousands and thousands of acres, we end up in the same exact spot.
Yep.
And it's just that hunter's sense of where the hell to be and where to know, like, they're edgy animals, so that makes sense that thing was going to run right down through there.
And especially after, like, I mean, for sure, Hunter Bob's probably spent more time than any of us in that country, for sure.
Say, go ahead. Say, I'm the old guy.
He's the old guy. But I guess what I'm getting to is, I mean, we've all gotten to know the woods really well.
Yeah.
Bucks are where they are.
Yep.
And they're not where they're not. And they're not going to be in certain places. Yep. And we've all gotten to know places to hunt through. And
I hunted that spot when I was a kid, so none of it was ever logged. There was the places where there's skid roads where you could drive a log truck in now. It was nothing but just dense woods when I was a kid, And I mean, we used to do good up there though.
Oh, yeah.
But it was never, you never see. It was me and one other guy and the Massets, and that was about it.
Yep. Yep.
It's different country now than it was when Bob's talking about. There's, it's easement land. It's been cut up good, so it's different country. That at least where that is, And we still get up on the mountains and whatnot, and that'll probably never change. I don't foresee that happening up in there, but
we got to hear the story about the maple buck, right? I mean, that's it's by far your most viewed video, I believe.
140-something thousand views.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and we're dying to hear it, and that's the most unique looking buck I think I've ever seen.
He's a slammer.
And there it is right there on the wall. But can you guys kind of break that down as far as what the buck you got beforehand, and then thinking it was a maple buck, and then going back into the
well, it was the year before Bob shot maple buck. We had a huge 8-pointer on camera, right? And so the following year we get a nice 9-pointer on camera, and we're thinking it's the same buck. So whatever, we a lot of times we don't shoot the deer we have on camera, So anyways, me and Hunter Bob, and who was with us that day? My dad was with us when I shot mine.
Fitzy.
Woody was with us. So I actually was cutting through the swamp, and I cut a buck track.
No. That's not the way it went. He says, here. He says, you two guys, his dad and myself, he says, you guys hang down through this swamp here. He goes, it's not too bad going through there, which I've been through it. And I was smart enough to stay out towards the pond.
Yep.
Well, he sends his dad through the thickest, nastiest stuff you could ever imagine. And his dad fell down, poked himself in the eye, and next thing I know, he's swearing up a storm saying, when I get out of here, I'm never coming back. Next thing you know, he cuts loose with 4 or 5 shots.
5 shots.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so Dad had he got in there, and it was so thick he just kind of veered off. And so I picked up this buck track, and it was heading right towards the camera I had up there. I hadn't checked the camera all year, so I'm like, what are the odds? Well, sure enough, and of course, this is Adirondacks, right? So this is a very, very average buck track. I mean, it's not big. The main guys wouldn't even track it, right? Probably the New Hampshire guys wouldn't even track it. So,
but that was bare ground, though, right, or no?
No, we had just a little bit of old crap snow.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So the buck walks right by my camera. It's this beautiful 10-pointer. I call them. I said, I got the buck just walked by my camera. I'm taking him. I go, I'll talk to you later,
Yep.
So it was 4 hours ahead of me, or 3 at least. And so I took off. I was moving on it, right, make up some time. Well, I didn't go maybe 15 minutes. I don't even think it was that long. And I look up, and here comes these 2 does running down through the woods right at me with this great big rack buck chasing them. And he's doing like that side-to-side kind of run they do now and then. And he's coming straight at me. So I got the gun up, and I'm like, he had his head down. So I got to shoot between his rack to try to hit him in between the shoulders, So I don't wait. I'm not waiting for him to stop. I'm not looking for a broadside shot. He's going to get lead. So I start shooting, and it's like he never flinched, he never turned, nothing. And I'm like, I got to be hitting him because I'm a good shot, right? So finally he turned broadside, and it was my 5th shot, I think it was, and he stumbled. And I'm like, all right, I know at least I hit him once. Yeah. So meanwhile, Big Bob, my dad, and Hunter Bob were down messing around in the swamp hole, and so I go up there. I ended up killing the buck. So I tell him, I got this buck that's been, we called him Maple Buck because he was rubbing these 6-8 inch maple trees. Mm-hmm. Well, I says, I got maple bucks. So they come up. We continue to celebrate. So later on that year, we're hunting. Me, Hunter, Bob, Woody. Who else was with us? A squirrel. Yeah, squirrel's with us. And I'm like forever and a day away. At like 10 in the morning, I think that's when it was, I heard a faint shot. But I was so far away, I was out of radio service and whatnot. And so ends up, I came to a high point where I got a bar of service. And I got a text message that Bob had shot the actual maple buck. So I didn't know what was going on.
So I got one of those electric bikes, and so that summer I spent a couple days in there, trimmed the thing out so I'm not going in there making all sorts of noise. So I get to the trailhead early in the morning, just a little bit after light, and there's already a guy walking down the trail. It's like, no big deal. Usually these guys go 3/4 mile, half mile, and they're turning around, they're doing whatever. So I'm riding a bike in there, and I look, and there's a buck's track and a doe's track, and I get on their track, and I start on them. And I probably go maybe 1/4 mile, and I go, that's not what you want, Bob. I said, go back, get on that damn bike, and let's go find a real buck's track. Yeah. So I get going along, and the guy veers off, and there's a deer's track there, and I get off the bike, and I look to the side where the buck had come from, and this track is just enormous. And it's like, and this was a little doe. I said, damn, now this guy's on the buck's track, and it's like, well, a lot of guys won't take the tracks. A lot of guys just go and peter around. I mean, these guys are on a trail. They're not getting off the trail more than 200 yards, 300 yards. So I get going along, and I go, so now I'm thinking, I said, if this guy's going this way and that buck's going down towards that beaver meadow, I said, maybe I'll just cut to the right or left, and I'll go down towards that beaver meadow. Maybe he'll kick it out or whatever. So I didn't go 200-300 yards, and the guy turns and goes right back to the trail.
Wow.
And I go, you gotta be kidding me. There is a God. So I get on the buck's track, and I start taking him. He rubs the huge tree, and I go, well, here we go. Yeah. No, well, yeah.
Tree, yeah.
So I get going down through there, and I'm just taking my time, just like the video, and so I finally catch up to the buck, and it's like, there's no way I'm going to catch up to this thing. I mean, it was, the video shows, but it doesn't show how thick it is, and it was so thick, it was unbelievable. And it's like, it was a wall that I couldn't even get through. And the doe had bedded to the right. She went into the right, but she bedded down, and I come across her bed, and she got back up, and she went into the thicket. And it's like, well, I can't go through it. I said, I got to go to the left, and then I found a spot where I could kind of get through it, and I knew they were to my right. And once I got in there, it opened up just a little bit, and here she come. And I mean, she was 10 yards, 15 yards from me, and I look, and I see that big rat coming through there, and I just figured he was an 8-pointer, 10-pointer, whatever he was, but he was, he didn't look like he was 19 inches wide. He just looked like a 16-inch wide, nice rack buck, and it was the 21st of November, and he was getting shot.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I pulled the trigger and never seen him again. It's like, oh my God. I said, hopefully he's over there dead. And I walked over there and I was like, surprise. But so afterwards, I meet this guy that was on the buck's track. And I said to him, I go, why didn't you stay on that buck's track? He goes, I thought it was too old. I go, oh boy. I said, so I took a picture in that video of a $10 bill next to the track, because that's just, I reached in my pocket for a clip, and there was a $10 bill in there, so I just threw it on the ground, just so I could size resemble the track. And that guy that year got a picture of the buck's track and a $10 bill from his brother.
No kidding.
Yeah. Gee. We gave him a couple condolence bush lights.
Yeah.
There one day we met him.
But I think it was either that year or no, it wasn't that year. It was the following year or 2 years. I was on a buck's track, and I come down through there, and I've been tracking him for probably 3 hours, and the buck had gone closer to the road, and now the buck's starting to meander. He's getting ready to bed. He made a big scrape, and I said, here within the next half an hour, I'll have this buck dead. And I look, and there's a guy's track. I go, you got to be kidding me. Well, lo and behold, it's the guy that got the $10 bill in the picture. It was him, because I talked to him later in the afternoon. And he tracked the buck, and I ended up going down the road, and I got in front of the buck, and I ended up tracking him until pitch black, and we never caught up with him. But
Well, that guy's in the right area then.
yeah, he's right with us.
He's
you know?
there
He's a
all the
good
time.
guy.
Yeah, he is a good guy.
Him and his brothers, they hunted in Maine back in the days. They shot some huge bucks up there. So
How we ended up meeting them guys was because you had that picture, that huge 6-pointer. I mean,
Yes.
that
Yep.
6-pointer's big, but this 6-pointer this dude shot was, what, 18, 20 inches wide.
Oh, no kidding.
Big 6-point. And how they ended up killing the buck, they checked his trail camera.
yeah, they found my camera.
Oh, no.
And they checked it, saw the buck on it. The kids, so his nephew come up, the first time he ever walked into that piece of land, walked down
Not
300,
even that far,
Yeah.
really.
300 yards from the road. The buck walked out and he killed him.
Killed with a shotgun. Shot 12 yards or something.
You couldn't even, I mean,
Yeah.
it is, them bucks definitely come down through there, but it's 300 yards from the road. You know, it's.
Just by chance.
Good guys.
Didn't we see that on Facebook or something? Like, we didn't even know
Yes.
about it or something.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
all of a sudden, there's that picture of that
No,
buck.
how I found out about it is I was delivering material to the guy over in Deer Spring Park.
That's right, that's
and
right.
The guy goes, yeah, we hunt up north. Like, I go, yeah, whereabouts? And he told me exactly where, and I go, yeah, you're kidding me.
I have to.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I look at, he goes, yeah, my nephew shot this hell of a buck. And I go, where? And he told me exactly where. And I go, we had that buck on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then the next, I
Well,
think it was the next spring.
Right. I was actually in there hunting the buck that kid had killed, and I didn't know he had killed him. And Eric had him on camera. So I go in there.
Cut me
Looking-
off.
yeah. looking
I'm
for-
still working.
I'm looking for this 6-pointer, and the 10th of November, I killed this big 10-pointer, and I call him up, and I go, hey, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm down in Utica eating,
No.
weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you were
No,
eating-
that was a different buck. This was my last day of work. I was working in White Lake, I believe.
I said, buddy, what was it? It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
I go, I killed a big-ass 10-pointer. I said, I started dragging him. I said, it's not going very well. I said, I must be out of shape. Well, I weighed him, 7 days later, and I weighed 175 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, on dry ground. And
Yeah.
so,
What,
Eric,
how'd you
what
get-
year was that, Bob? That
I don't know.
was
you
that
guys
the
determine-
same year we all
16,
killed all them
yes.
bucks within like 5 days?
Yeah. We had
Yep.
5 or 6 bucks on the truck.
Yeah,
that
battles and everybody,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. How'd you guys ever determine that the guy checked your camera?
So I was cutting trees. This guy called me up. He needed a great big tree cut that was like a foot from his house. So I go up there and give him an estimate, and he goes, I got to tell you something. He goes, I found your camera down in there by them beaver meadows. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, and I checked it. And I'm like, well, at least you didn't steal it.
Yeah.
Or delete my card or something, you know? And he goes, we saw that great big 6-pointer. And he goes, I took my nephew down in there, and he sat down for about 20 minutes, and he shot it at 12 yards with a shotgun. I'm like,
Man.
awesome, you know? Like,
Yeah. Well, good thing he didn't steal it for one. But
Yeah, I know.
I think we've all probably had cameras stolen, and we always fantasize about putting a hand grenade in our just a dummy camera, because it's like, God, it's so frustrating when people mess with your stuff.
We've never had anybody mess with our
No,
cameras. And but
nobody.
Bears.
Bears will eat 'em,
crush
yep,
them
for sure.
constantly.
No matter how high you put them up in a tree or whatever, they can just smell them. So.
Mm-hmm.
I've had bears come in and knock mine off the tree and stuff, but he gets 1 or 2 eaten every year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Probably because he's always got jerky or something on his hands, but he's
Beer.
I always wondered, like, how do these bears? I followed a bear track one time, and he cut across this valley, right across the creek, straight up the hill, right to my camera. Like, he didn't it didn't seem like he accidentally found my camera. This bear was paralleling the creek. He caught a sharp right up to the camera, ripped it off the tree, went right back down to the creek, kept going. I'm like, what the heck? How did he? Why? You know? It blows my mind sometimes.
I I really swear they can smell them.
Yeah, I
There's
think
human
so,
scent
too.
on them.
Yep.
Because if our cameras will sit in the woods all winter, like I got 3 or 4 way back in right now, and I'll start getting pictures here soon when the bucks go back up in there. And in the fall, usually every single one of them is looking at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
In the spring, never ever are they looking at the camera.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
just
The scent's gone.
Everything's gone.
Yep.
Interesting.
You know, that was, well, that, just you saying that reminds me of the Scarface buck there that Mark killed.
Yeah.
And I had him migrating back up. I mean, that camera was 3 inches from his face.
Yeah.
He paid no mind to it. I think I had him migrating down, or someone else did that the fall prior, too.
guy killed, what was he, a 12-pointer or 13?
13 point. He's been at 9 for quite a while.
Right in the middle of where our action usually happens. He just come in there and cut the buck's track crossing the road and tracked
That
him.
was the one I was telling you.
Tracked him
Buck,
half
like,
a mile and killed him.
Did everything wrong, you know. When the buck bed down, he had his back to his backtrack. He wasn't even
Right.
Yeah, it was just.
He gave
Way
up.
she goes.
You know, I guess it was his day.
Yep.
'Cause,
I got one more question for you guys about the Maple Bucks. So did you guys have a bunch of history with that buck before that year? Or was that kind of a first year type of thing?
No.
That
No.
was
No.
kind of first year.
The year before,
Picture. One
we had that
picture.
one
Pictures.
picture.
Actually, it was the day Woody
Right.
might have shot a buck up in there, and he was on camera.
Well, a couple, 2-3 weeks before that, we got some snow, and I was down in there, and Eric was way up north, and I got him on the radio. I said, "Whereabouts are you?" And he was like 2-3 miles from me, and I had been tracking the buck, and it was definitely him. It was huge track, and I brought him into an alder bed, and I knew what the outcome was going to be, me going through that alder bed, and it was like 2 in the afternoon. I said, well, I get him on the radio. I said, where are you? He told me where he was, and I said, do you think you can get down here and maybe come through this alder bed? And I said, you'll see where I got.
Yeah.
And I said, you'll see where I took him into the alder bed. And I said, I'm just going to go back where he came in from, because usually if you get on you jump a buck, and he'll usually go out his backtrack because he knows he was safe when he came in, so he'll go out his backtrack the same way. I said, I'll go get on his backtrack, you come through that alder bed. And luckily for him, he was long gone. You know?
All right, well, we got mics on everybody here except for Woody, but we'll go through some questions. So we put a poll up there that you saw on Instagram for some questions for you. We had a bunch of questions come in. So if you got any answers from Woody, we'll just hand a mic off to you. So the first question we got for you, when and how did the ADK Cowboys get their start?
Well, Bob's always worn a cowboy hat, and I never did. And he's like, I can't believe, what do you do when you go under the bushes? And I'm like, well, I pull my hood up over my head. So me and Woody, we ended up buying cowboy hats, and they're pretty nice.
Yeah, you just tuck your shoulders in a little bit.
Yep.
Throw that on real quick. There you go. That's all good. We got 6 guys for
Yeah, that's when I was hunting with Bob one day, and it was super heavy wet snow dripping off the trees down my neck the whole time, and it's just aggravating, especially if you're not seeing anything. And that's the day I said I'm never hunting again without one of them stupid hats. And I didn't, I thought they looked ridiculous,
Actually, one of my buddies told me one time, because the one I always had, my dog, my beagle chewed it up, and it was all ragged and this and that. But it was my lucky buck. I still got it. I bought this new hat this year, and I said, well, if the new hat don't produce, I'll
The
go
old
back to
hat's
the old
coming
hat.
out.
Go right
You know,
back to it.
Talk about superstitious, right?
Yeah, they are nice. I mean,
They make a world of difference. You know,
Yeah,
that's
wicked.
from a
Just
ball cap to
definitely.
comfort.
They're hot though. Like
Wicked.
these guys don't like to wear them. If they can wear a ball cap and it's not snowing, and
I don't
this-
think any
this
of
and
us
that.
wear them early season. Just
Right.
Snow, basically. It's more
Or
plus
rain.
snow.
I do most of the time, but it's just
I say because it always seems like you got yours on in the videos
Yeah,
and stuff.
always.
But they're hotter than hell. They are.
Yeah.
yeah. In early season they are. You sweat because they're like kind of like a wool.
they're
they're
wool
wool,
felt.
right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Keep the snow off your neck though. That's a big thing.
Big
for
time. I
sure.
mean, even in, like somebody my size, when you go through that stuff that just hung right over, you just tuck your shoulders in and
get right through. No
and
problem.
it goes right off. I mean, your hat at the end of the day will be that
Yeah,
thick.
you
with
got 4
snow.
pounds of snow on your hat, but you're dry.
Hey, works though.
So
Huh. All right. Next question we got from Wyatt Grace. He says deepest kill in the Adirondacks and the story behind it.
That's Woody's book.
yeah, 10-pointer 3 years ago, 4 years ago. That's when, oh man, I can't even think. Well, it might have been one of the first snows of the year, but I know it was super, super crunchy that day. Eric and I pulled up to the spot, and we got out, and there's actually 2 other guys there getting ready to hike in, and figured out where they were going. They told us.
They told me where they were going.
We said,
ain't
yep.
going up there.
I said, good luck, guys. We hiked in like 3 miles.
You were in the, wasn't it wide open hardwoods too when you finally saw that buck too?
But it was on top of a knoll,
Right,
though, so the buck come around the knoll. And
Yeah, so we went in a few miles and maybe
3 miles at least.
half mile or 3.5 miles in. I come up to this, that wicked beech nuts there. This bear was feeding beech nuts, and I found this bed. He ripped all these boughs off a spruce tree and made this bed. Never seen it before. Just
No kidding.
all piled up, and it's like a nest he laid in overnight. And so I called Eric. I said, hey, this bear's feeding. I found its bed, and its tracks are heading kind of your way. And he goes, well, bud, I just filmed him at 5 yards or something like that. So it was a huge, 300-pound bear or whatever. We don't know how
tank,
big it is, but it's huge.
Yeah.
Probably that one Kyle shot. I'll bet
Could
you
have
money.
been, yeah.
Guaranteed it was.
Yeah.
Same area.
420 pounds he killed it this year.
No kidding. Jeez.
So we go another mile from there or so, right? And, it's super crunchy, so we're not really looking to track. We're just kind of still hunting, slow hunting, grunting.
But it's an area that we don't get into very often because it's that far back,
away, yeah. It's far in. So, I'm just grunting up this little knob, and buck walks out at, 60, 70 yards and hit him once in the shoulder. He drops. That was 5.5 miles and
That was
seven
beautiful
7
buck,
hours.
7 hours of dragging.
Yeah, 3 of us, and then 4. My brother came in for the last half.
And when I started, them guys went that way to the north, and I was probably 3 to 4 miles to the south. And I was getting to the point where I'm going to start making my cut back because I'll have 8 miles in by the end of the day. I don't even hear the shots go off. And it's like, they were right up on top of a mountain, and big buck down, 100 bob, big buck down. I go, you're kidding me. I said, where are you? Well, we're, I said, I've already walked like 4 miles, and that's probably going to be 5 to 6 miles. I said, you guys are killing me right now.
That's a long.
I mean, we'll walk 10, 11, 12, 14 miles a day,
Yeah.
but I didn't really feel like walking 14 miles that day.
The drag one, and then we got out that night. It was late, well after dark. Eric actually forgot his rifle up the
Top of the mountain.
last half
no.
mile top of the mountain. Had to go back up for that.
That ain't no fun.
Then we got back, and Chris had a nice big buck down. So
that
a
I
long
think
night.
that-
Your birthday.
So that was, oddly enough, I went up to camp. Normally I stay up there. I'm up there all the time. But that morning I was home for whatever reason the night before, and I drove up by myself, and I just beat feet north that morning, and I was probably 2.5, 3 miles, and I get to where it's like I have to make a decision. I can't hunt north anymore because you're going on off from the easement, so I'm going to blow up this mountain and. Or do I go down to the valley? I don't know what to do. I'm sitting there deciding. I look right in front of me, and I see it's thick balsam, and I see this rack going through, and I pull up, boom, I shoot. I'm not sitting there judging him. I see rack, and it's on. So next thing you know, he just bounds up in the air, and he's running right at me. I had to step out of the way of this buck. Swear to God, step out of the way. Let him get by me. I shoot 2 more times. I hear him pile up. So I go up there, and I'm like, yeah, it's a beautiful buck. Well, I'm like, man, I'm quite a ways up in here. I'm alone. Mm-hmm. I hadn't even talked to them guys that morning. So I pull out the radio, and I think I maybe hollered Eric or anyone. Then it gets to the point where it's like an SOS. Anybody hear me, And I'm getting nothing. So we have no cell service up there, but I was high enough on this mountain that, where you get that like 1 bar on your phone that maybe it would send.
Yep.
So I text my son, Nate, big buck down. I gave a description of that he would know, and I said, I'm going to start dragging. So I start dragging. I'm going down, And I get to a point where I have to make a decision: cross the valley or go down this old skid road. But it's thick. I decided to cross the valley. I get him across the creek, up onto this real nice skid road at that point. At that point, I'm spent. Pretty spent. And I just sat there on a log. I'm looking at the buck and taking pictures. I look up that skid road, and here comes my son, Nate, with a deer cart. So I'd never been so happy to see him. We throw it on the cart. At that point, it's easy. You blow him out on the cart, right?
That car you guys have is sweet. That thing's
So
handy for sure.
we get down to tent camp, and we weren't there. It was my birthday. Back then, the tradition used to be my daughter, wife, and whoever would be, they would bring up pizza or something,
Yeah.
We weren't there 20 minutes, and in come Woody and Boek and all them guys, and they got Woody's buck on there. So there's pictures. Eric's got him on his YouTube channel of all them bucks hanging up there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's pretty typical, actually, around my birthday, just because of.
Seems like you always shoot bucks on your birthday.
Yeah, it does. I think up there I've killed 3 or 4 on my birthday, but it's not just me. It's the timing. It's typical for anyone. It's happened a couple times. Where I think Woody has killed 2 within a few days of my birthday, and Eric too.
I think one more thing I forgot about our buck. Me and Eric and I were dying from thirst coming out. Terrible cramping up. Eric carried the buck a lot. When we're in the swamps, he's got it on his shoulders. So
Was
he's
that
carrying
your
it.
buck?
Yeah. Bob ended up going ahead to make sure my brother knew exactly where we were to get him, and so we finally hit this little creek, and we get, half a sandwich bag of water in this, and here comes my brother with a 30-pack on the cart, and we're like, well, perfect, So
It seems like every video you guys have that somebody is coming with a 30-pack at some point.
Well, did you even get? Did I bring I didn't bring a 30-pack 7:30 this morning this year, did I? You didn't even ask for one, did you? It's unusual for you.
Huh.
But yeah, most of them, if they're killed after 8:30.
I like it when we kill them about 1, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, that is the prime time for
Between
it, for
10
sure.
and 2.
10 and 2. Usually between 10 o'clock and 2, that's when we're killing bucks.
Yeah.
Very seldom, but a lot of times we're not. We're usually out of the woods by 3 most days anyway.
Yep.
Usually you're pretty much spent. You pick up a buck's track at 2:30 in the afternoon. Usually he's going the wrong way, and you're not catching up with him. You're pretty much tired out.
Yep.
But my key always in my life was don't ever quit. Everybody always asks me, how do you kill them big bucks? It's like, you don't quit. You don't.
That's a good point.
You don't. You walk up to. It only takes another 100 yards. Like that big buck he was on this year. He tracked him for 2 days straight, and he comes out to me and he goes, "Oh, hell with him." I go, "No." I go, "It's a half an hour before dark. Get your ass up in there and shoot him." Lo and behold, he went up there and he shot at him, but he missed him.
Way she goes. Huh. I got another question for you here. This is a question more for Eric here. So we kind of talked about this earlier. Any advice on the proper way to turn a deer into a backpack to get it out of the woods? That's from Mike Scarpa in Massachusetts.
Well, Mike, I don't like the backpack style. So I feel like it pulls you more backwards, I guess, off balance. I prefer to put them on my shoulders. Everyone is always commenting, put them in the backpack style. Well, I got great big shoulders, so I put the deer on my shoulders. And it's much easier to carry a deer out than it is to drag it, friction-wise. And, I've carried 150-pound deer, 125-pound deer. I've carried 201-pound deer.
But you got to be 245 pounds solid.
I was going to say, he's not a small dude.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. No, it's definitely easier carrying them. It could be a chore to get them on your shoulders or back. If you're alone, I guess, and it's a big deer.
Do you think I hunt with him just because I like him?
So you got a system to it right there.
Yeah. No.
So throw him over the shoulders. That's the best way for you. If you got the shoulders for
I
it.
like it. Yeah.
Yep.
I like it that way.
It was Jim Massette that kind of did the Adirondack backpack, tie the legs together type of thing.
And so what happened was I'd always drag my deer out. right? So I killed a buck like 4 miles from my dad's camp one day, bare ground, hot. It was like 50, 55 degrees. Started dragging it. Well, my legs started cramping up real bad, and I got thinking about Jim Massett carrying these bucks out, and Jim Massett's a tough guy, right? And I'm like a lot bigger than Jim Massett. I go, if he can carry these bucks out, I can carry these bucks out. So I flopped around with this buck trying to figure out how to get him on my back for like 5-10 minutes. But once I got him up there, it was like I took off with him for 3/4 of a mile, and it was a breeze. So that's when it all started.
The first time I ever carried a buck, this is way before I knew Eric.
Was the last time.
First time, last time.
I dragged him up onto an old stump, rock or whatever, and I got underneath him. And it took me like I've been in a wrestling match for 25 minutes. And once I got him up there, I said, I am not putting this buck down. I carried that thing for, 2.5, 3 miles.
Never put him down.
Never put him down. And I'd lean up against an old blowdown or something, and I'd lean up against it, take some weight off my back. Let me tell you what. I couldn't barely walk for 3 days. It's like, no way.
Screwed up the back pretty good.
The average guy can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. So you got to be in shape and
You got to be at least Woody size.
Okay, I got you.
The only problem I ever had was with putting a buck on my back is one time, the last day of season, Big Gare shot this humongous 9-pointer, and I launched this buck up to put him on my shoulders, and my head went inside his cavity.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we were inside camp. I mean, maybe we shouldn't even tell that start part, but yeah. So you don't want that to happen because he'll make you fall down.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good way to. So if you're saying if you're going to carry one out, do it right off the bat. That first
I'm
energy
telling
you
you
got,
what,
and then.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
going to be a hell of a dry cleaning bill if you're wearing wool.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Just leave it on there.
And then get a one-wheeled cart.
Yep.
Throw 'em
I was
on
gonna
that
say,
and
so you
call
guys
it
all
done.
have the cart now. Who was the first guy to bring the cart to the whole group? Because that's pretty slick.
Well,
We
Keith
borrowed one. Yeah.
Yeah, Keith had a
There's a bear cart.
That was a 2-wheel cart,
Right.
but it worked really nice. You know, it did. And then
Except
Burdick.
for going through the woods. I mean,
right,
you had to
going
have
through
some
the woods
sort
it
of
was
a trail,
tough.
You know?
And our buddy that hunts with us also, Burdick, he had a 1-wheel cart, and he says, Chris, you know, you guys take this and keep it at camp, and you'll use it a lot more than I will.
They're slick.
So,
Really
and
nice.
actually,
Yeah.
I just put a
Yeah.
picture up today. I think it was probably one of the first times we used that cart. And I come out and I told Eric that night, I go, wait till you try this cart. This thing
like
is
a
It's
dead-
bomb.
That car it's unbelievable. He'll be, and whoever's on it, it's like, are you doing all the work, or
Yeah.
because it's like you're not doing nothing.
One
It's like,
guy can
Just
really.
floating it out.
I think the
almost
first time,
pull a buck out.
like we all got to use it.
With it.
I know Eric did because it was Lanky's buck a couple years ago, and we took it right into this beaver fly. And you know what beaver flies are like? Yeah, there's grass, but yeah, there's brush and
Wet.
and then just
water.
getting to that, not to
Yep.
speak of. And we threw this thing on there, and it was like a dream.
You can't walk fast enough.
Yeah, you
No,
can't walk
to get it
exactly.
out.
There's
Just
no other way to
floats them right out of
describe
the
it.
woods.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. You know, I've seen a lot of. I think in Maine they use a lot of the jet sleds and things of
Yeah,
that
yeah.
nature, and they look like they work good. I don't think nothing compares to these
No,
things.
no.
You know, I really don't.
It's no ambition at all. It's
Yeah.
just like
yeah.
these guys can have a buck, and it's hard for me to even keep up the pace with them. You know, it's
Yeah, you're not even really trying. You're just balancing it, and you just go.
keeping it moving
just go.
forward. Yep.
It's amazing. So we're gonna probably, hopefully, have Kyle make another one or two they have around here.
Nice.
Bob's son is a good welder and stuff. And
Good.
we have him fabricate a few more.
All right, next question. This one's more for you, Bob, or I guess anybody, but it's back to the hat question. There's a lot of questions on the hat. So Ian McKendry says, where can we get a hat like that, and does it make me a better hunter when I put it on?
I got an old one he might be able to have.
Throw that on eBay.
Yeah, it's worth some money now.
Well, me and Woody bought ours at Runnings. What's it called? It's a Dakota.
Right. The one I don't even know. I just ordered that one this year and I got it. It took a while, but we always try to get the ones with the wire brim in them. You know, 'cause they're shapeable and it's just they hold up better instead of them flopping down. You know, but
You can get them all over online.
Yeah,
but
not real easy.
The
Not the
Dakota
wire
that we
brim
have
ones.
has the wire brim. It's fairly inexpensive.
So that's the wire brim. So what is it? The crusher hats that a lot of guys wear that aren't
Right.
that are the.
They're
oh,
just
he's
like
got
a
cat
felt
coming in
style.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those things are pretty rugged. Then.
Yeah, see, they got the so you
Dakota
can,
So it
Twister.
keeps it up and it's not sagging down on you.
you
Yeah,
can
so
shape
you
them
can-
however shape you want.
That makes
Depending on
sense.
what pack you might be wearing, you can adjust it or.
Nice. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
He's
got to get
a
your
big old
wires.
head on him. Yeah.
Here's
That's
here's
a
what I
buck
do.
killing hat right there.
When I get into, like, a lot of times these hats will be down like this, so you're kind of try to tip them back. So when I get on the Bucks track and I know I'm close,
It's game time right there.
that's game time. You know, it's 100%.
Rip the
you know.
brim right back.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, there you go.
Show them what you're doing. It's kill time.
You fix that.
No, I think I actually ordered mine off Cabela's. Identical to Eric's, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. All right, so this next question, this might be a question more for you three. So if I want to hand that off real quick, we'll do a quick switch. This is about the high six here.
I hope they're not asking why I wasn't there to shoot him.
This is a more after the fact type of question. But so the question, which I think I mentioned to you guys earlier, said roughly how many lattes were killed the same day the Big Six was taken? When you say lattes, bush lattes, yes.
Well, you got to tell the whole
Is
story.
there a rough? I don't think there is a rough guesstimate.
Why don't you start at the
not
beginning of the
sure.
story? So you and Woody were
Yep.
together. So why don't we start at the beginning of the story, then we'll get to the how many lattes were killed when Hunter Bob showed up. And
All right. So Woody and I were walking in an old log road there. We were actually on the impression Bob was going to a different spot that day. But
That's typical.
That's what they say when they take off and say, "Help, Bob."
You're a game time decision type of guy.
That's-
Yeah.
so we walk in, and we're just literally walking shoulder to shoulder, trucking in through there. And the end of this road is a landing. So walked through there 20, 30 times in my life, never seen a deer there. So we break out to just about to the landing, and I kind of scan the whole thing, and it's like I'm right at the end of my scan, and this buck whips its head around and looks at me. And so all I said was, Woody, and I just pulled my gun up and I shot, right? And so
I think I jumped back as you said, Woody.
Woody-
Yeah,
Your
he
gun
did.
went
He-
up.
Woody,
I'm like,
Woody, you didn't jump back. You know damn well he pushed you out of the way.
so Woody takes a jump back while we start cranking on this buck. So turns out he was unable to run, to our benefit. And so we
pretty
hit
sure
him.
you hit him on the first shot.
Yeah, I hit him the first shot, guaranteed. He couldn't run, and then he kind of turned, and we may have disabled his other rear leg. We're shooting through the brush, right? It was 9 foot tall brush, so you're just sending lead.
So just a cut, just a bunch of whips and
yeah,
shit. Yep.
you know, grown up. So then he falls down. So he disappeared for like maybe 3 seconds. Well, then he pushes himself back up, and it's like bang, 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 you know. So we end up killing the deer. So Bob calls us on the radio, and he's walking up the road. So
I didn't know if it was them guys or not. It was like between two mountains. I go,
Maybe.
hopefully.
Sound like 4th of July going off.
yeah. So he gets up there. Anyways, we take some pictures, do some videos. Chris ends up coming up with the cart for us. We take the deer out, and we get to, I don't know if I had my truck or SEAL Team 6, the Jeep there or whatever, but
Now it's 8 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, so it's 8 in the morning, so we're like, well, and it's the first good day of hunting we've had all year. It was, it
The first
literally,
wet day we had.
yeah, it rained.
Didn't have any rain all
It
season.
had been 60 degrees and sunny the week before that, so we're gonna have a beer, and I'm all right with that. But I'm not a guy that's gonna drink beer and then go hunting. I just won't do it. So it's like beer 2 comes along, and I told these guys, I said, hey, I go, this is the deal. I go, we're either gonna drink beer or we're gonna hunt deer, and so I'm kind of standing.
We're gonna drink beer.
I'm standing there in silence, and like 4 beers crack simultaneously. I'm like, okay, well, I'm all right with that, you know. So we ended
There's
up.
a lot of history though with that buck, Eric. I mean, you killed a legend, really, in a sense.
He's a good buck.
You know,
But so we drink till.
Well, we had lunch. We
Yeah.
made some hot dogs or something.
But so one of the guys, maybe Nate or somebody, drove us down to weigh this buck in at the bar. So we had a bunch of beer there. And on the way there, one of our buddies calls us up and says, hey, he says, I just killed a nice 8-pointer. It's like,
Son of a bitch.
man.
Oh, God.
So we weigh in the buck, drink a bunch more beer, drink when we get back to camp. Now we drink all the way in to get his buck out of camp or out of the woods. So on our way back, my son says, "Hey, I just shot like a 400-pound, 450-pound bear." It's like, well, we got to go get a buck
He's
out.
staying in the woods.
Yeah, I said, we'll come get him out in the morning. You know,
Yeah. So you got 2 bucks down and then a bear at this point,
Yeah.
and it's what, 10 a.m.
no,
No,
the bear was
by
out
that
later.
time it
Later
was
in the day.
later. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
all right.
So if I had to answer that question,
Yeah, get right to the question on that one, right to the roots.
I'm
on
gonna
that.
say a couple hundred.
Yeah,
maybe.
easy.
So a couple hundred
2 to
bush
3.
lattes.
Conservatively,
yeah, but there's
There
fine.
might a couple twisted teas too,
yeah.
maybe.
Someone did drink. There was one bottle of water.
How many was
One bottle. Hey, hydration's important right there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey, what I got to say is, my buddy Woody here, he makes this cider that we call Woodrow's. He'd probably sell it for $20 a bottle. If you drink about 5 shots of that, you're not driving your pickup truck.
You won't even remember hunting.
I don't even know if we're gonna allow it at camp.
No,
Oh no, it's that
no.
potent. Eh?
Oh, it's terrible.
Holy man.
But it tastes just like water. But
No,
it's
it goes down good. It's great tasting, but you definitely don't want anything to do that.
That's funny. All right, so next question. So you 200-300 on the high 6 right there, and is that a conservative number? Is that's
Yeah.
right
It's
on
gotta
there?
be close.
I'm not sure.
And you guys got a bunch of guys at camp, obviously.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
that's a
there.
heck
There's
of a
at
day,
least
though.
6 of us.
$2 down, a bear.
it's not like we're drinking a 30-pack of peas.
No, I got you.
Yeah, 25.
All right, so next question. So this is for everybody. So this is from Steve Champa from New Hampshire. I don't know if you guys know him or not. With the woods being so ancient in the Adirondacks and old, what type of habitat do you find most of the deer inhabit? Yep, sorry.
Well,
Well,
depends on the year.
interesting.
Every other year.
I think that question there goes. It's probably based on what everyone thinks of the Adirondacks, but a lot of the area we hunt is it's logged. It's easement land. Not all of it, by no means.
No, not a lot of it. I mean,
but a
some
fair
of it.
amount of it. It's been logged. 26,000 acres been logged forever.
Yeah, but that's basically where you are. But where we hunt mainly is, if there's not beech nuts, it's ferns that are underneath.
yeah, there's no food.
Yeah, down below.
Off of a maple tree, they tend to eat ferns from underneath a soft maple tree. If they don't have mushrooms, they tend to eat hemlock. If there's, our deer got the browse and hemlocks in the wintertime.
Witch hobble.
Witch hobble, a lot of witch
Right.
hobble.
We don't have a ton of witch apple where we're hunting, but beech nuts is the main thing.
But that's every other year.
Every
typically.
couple years.
Ish,
about
yeah,
it.
if it even
it's
happens.
just coming. It's just coming back to every other year. We went 10 years without a beech nut crop.
I think it was 7.
Yeah.
It was 10 years ago.
I feel like, Bob, like years ago, it seemed like we had more beech nut years 30 years ago than we do now.
Well, yeah, because they got that bug or
Yep.
infected or
beach,
something.
beach
and-
bark disease, and now they just
Yeah.
discovered beach leaf disease in the Adirondacks. So
But last year there was nothing. There was no mushrooms. That's probably why all our deer were in the swale grass around beaver meadows. They were eating grass. And other than that, I don't know what the hell they were eating.
there wasn't much high last year up above,
No.
on the mountains. You went above halfway. You weren't finding a whole lot. Everything was pretty low. I heard that all across the whole Northeast. It seemed to be. But I don't know. Sometimes the Adirondacks, they say it's 6 million acres and all that, but you got to realize that more than half of that's private land, timber company land. It does get caught. It's not this virgin forest that everyone wants to make it out. Right. If you don't really know, you read about it, you're just under the assumption that it's not like that.
But the thing is about when you're hunting on big woods like that, for doing it for so long, these bucks, yeah, there is millions of acres, and say we hunt whatever, 100, 200 square miles, them bucks only use
yeah.
a third of the property. I mean, you can go through a piece of woods, you'll go a mile, and yeah, you'll catch a straggler track through there, but they just don't use that piece of property, and they use this piece. That's one problem I'm having up where I've been hunting, Woody and I. It's like there's so many spruce thickets and stuff like that. So it's
They're definitely in pockets.
and you can't neck them down. We've been hunting up there for what
3 years.
and we haven't killed a buck up there yet. But we got pictures of huge bucks, but we can't narrow them down. You know, but
That's because they're down my way.
yeah.
All right, another question here. So this is from Steve Champ as well. He's in New Hampshire guy, like I said before, big buck killer there. He says, besides by truck, is there a better method to finding a buck track in the ADKs with limited access?
Your feet.
Oh yeah. Lace your boots tight and let her go.
That's the only way.
There is no finding. There's no finding a buck's track
No.
in a vehicle.
Yeah, there's only one way, and that's by foot.
I don't know if I've ever in my life cut a buck's track out of a vehicle. You guys?
No.
I don't
No.
think so.
No, I got
Never ever.
one.
Yeah, Woody got one.
Yeah,
right.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
This year is
he
the
did.
only
You really
one.
can't even count that because it's such a fluke thing.
know.
Just to say it happens, it just doesn't happen.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
we drive 40 minutes up, just kind of get up, kind of in the area we hunt, whether it's at tent camp or a little below it.
There's
I mean,
plenty of days.
we don't go slow up. I don't go slow up that road.
No, I
looking.
didn't care.
Never.
I don't even look for him.
I beeline it up there.
Yeah.
The chances of wasting your time finding a buck track crossing that road is so slim. You just want to get up there and you know
Your best bet's
get a
to
mile in or 2
Hook up
miles
to
in.
a whatever kind of hiking trail or
Yeah.
snowmobile trail they have anywhere in the Adirondacks and just
Or just
beat
bushwhack.
feet. Just
Yep.
get moving.
My advice to anybody that's going to do it is if you do cut a buck's track and he's a mediocre buck's track, you better take the buck's track.
That's right.
Because you don't leave a buck's track unless you cut another one on the way. You don't leave a buck's track to find a buck's track because you're
There
not
ain't
gonna
none.
you're not gonna find another buck's
Yep.
track. You know, I mean, once in a while you'll be on a buck's track. It's like, whoa, look at that one, but very seldom. You know.
I think, like Hunter Bob was just saying, you know, the bucks use a certain percentage of real estate in the X amount of acres you're hunting, and I think that goes with anywhere. But like the general, you know, 20 square miles or however much the area that we spend 80% of the time in. Between Bob's knowledge, obviously he's hunted there longer than any of us, and everybody else's knowledge through the years, we kind of know where that is, you know. So we can kind of rush into them areas quick when the time is right. We don't waste time in areas that they're not.
Chris sets a lot of cameras out and gets a lot of good pictures.
And Nate too, my
Right.
son
And,
Nate.
and we'll set cameras out. Like I set cameras out the first, well, it was between muzzleloader and open a weekend. I never even went back to the spot once.
Yeah.
And there was scrapes everywhere. And it was like, and same with Eric. I mean, he puts cameras out. We never even go check them. We're
Yeah,
always just
I
hunting a
had
different
6
spot.
6 cameras out this year. I never checked a single one.
I checked one.
Yep. So
Where Nate and I probably had over 20 out, and I mean, I think I still have 6 or 7 that I haven't been back to. But the neat thing about cameras, and I always told my son this, is it keeps you in the woods. You know, you don't hunt off the cameras. You know, it keeps you out there. You're seeing these whatever bucks they are. It happens to be on camera. But I think probably the neatest part that I've learned over the years is, you know, we're all good friends, and you know, we all go back to tent camp at night and have some drinks, share some intel. And I'll be like, you know, geez, look at this buck, and
The
all of a
more
sudden-
beers he drinks, the more pictures he shows
Well,
us.
so you hold one out from Hunter Bob. But what I'm trying to get at here is, I think like I showed you the one a while ago, and that is a slammer buck. It's 100-some inch buck. It's big. And I was showing Eric, and Eric goes, he's seen that one sticker
yeah,
point, and he
split
goes,
G2 there.
split G2, and he goes, I think I have that buck a couple of years ago on camera. And it was like a day or two later, he pulls it up and shows me. I go, that's definitely the same buck. You know, I mean, he's grown. He was big when Eric had him, and he's real big now.
But there's no
But
rhyme or
then
reason.
There's
with
no
that
rhyme
buck.
or reason.
There's-
Like, this is miles. So probably when Eric got that buck on camera a couple of years ago, so they're like pounding through that area trying to cut his track or maybe still hunt him or whatever the case may be. We had him regularly where me and my son were hunting this year.
But our bucks won't. They won't be on the. maybe if there's hot doe, they'll be there the next day. But like I see in Maine, we only hunt there a little bit, and it's like you go back to the same mountain, and it seems like that buck is on that mountain. Our bucks are 10 miles away the next day, and the next day they're another 10 miles. And
You hunt one day, it's a barnyard. You go back to the next on fresh snow, and
dead.
yeah, nothing living there.
I wouldn't say ever a barnyard. There might be 4 deer there.
Yeah, that's a barnyard. Just
Woody, where's
just
the
saying.
barnyard? Because I want to go there.
4 deer.
And another thing, like a lot of times, like they were saying earlier, when they come up in, they're lining trucks up in and over a 4 or 5 mile area. And then, of course, me and Nate or whoever Scott maybe, we'll leave tent camp in the morning and we're hunting 3 more miles farther north. At the end of the day, we could all end up a mile apart.
Right, yeah.
How often? That's happened frequently,
There's
really.
it's not so much in the last year or two. I mean, now our average day is probably 10 miles a day, right?
Yeah.
I would say 9, 10 miles a day. But it used to be when I was younger, we used to put on 12, 14, 15 miles a day, every day. It's like, but.
Bob, what do you think changed a lot of that, besides the fact that, you get a few years on you? Don't you think the topos and stuff like that we use? And
Well, myself.
I think that's helped tremendously.
Yeah, for sure. But me hunting with these guys that are way younger, Woody's almost 20 years younger, Boek's 14 years younger. These guys want to rock and roll. They want to go as far as we can, as fast as we can in a day. And I think a lot of times I kill almost the majority of my bucks, I kill by myself. And because I'm not trying to keep up with these guys, we're going to go there, we're going to go here. So I just kind of slow down and I do my own thing and I end up killing a buck, where I think a lot of times we're just trying to cover ground and trying to cut a buck's track and we're walking by our bucks, You don't have to walk 14 miles a day. You can walk 3 miles a day.
Yeah. Wasn't there a rule this year? Everything was killed within 300 yards?
This year, I don't even know. I mean, I don't know how many bucks. We killed probably, 6, 7 bucks, 8 bucks between us all, and I don't think we dragged.
Nothing.
Boek knows, 3 miles
3
maybe.
miles.
Yeah.
No, it was like just over 2 miles.
Yeah, it wasn't far.
That one year we had like 21
But the
miles.
chances of that, I mean, you couldn't count that as a rule because all the years, it's
Yeah, our record year, that I think it was that year in, was it 16 when
We killed all them bucks.
we dragged deer for like 26 miles that year.
That's a lot.
That's crazy.
yeah. And that was, I think Bob started it off that you killed a 10-point.
Yep.
Yeah, the 10th of November.
The 10th.
That's how my Jeep got there.
And I killed that big 9. Then Eric killed a real wide 8-point.
Yeah,
right
that one up there.
Mounted.
Mine was on the 26th.
Woody shot one.
Woody.
Battles shot one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's,
Who else? No,
that was it.
Rick Ash. Remember that?
Yeah, we killed a lot of bucks
Yeah.
there.
That was.
They were all far away.
Was that a beach nut year, Bob? Do you remember? I don't.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
It was, wasn't it?
Bare ground.
And I hate beach nut years, but got lucky.
Me
that
too.
year.
I don't like beech nuts at all. The bucks stay in the hardwoods. They bed in the hardwoods, and I'm a fast hunter. Even when I get down to doing now I know it's time to kill, and it's like I gotta talk myself down, and I talk myself, and I know I'm creeping, but I have to tell myself, come on, Bob, you gotta slow it down. It's.
All right. Another question for you guys, if you're ready. I'll hand this one back off to you, Chris. So this is kind of an extension of what you talked about. So as far as cameras go, what are you kind of looking for in the Adirondacks to put cameras on? I know you guys were talking about beaver crossings and stuff like that and some strip cuts and stuff like that. And then from there, what do you go about doing for bare ground hunting tactics? Because it looks like you guys kill some bucks on bare ground. There's no denying
Eric
that.
does.
So here, let me hand this back off to Chris, and then you guys get into that.
And Chris, it doesn't matter. Wherever he hangs a camera, there's a big buck walking
I
by.
know. Well, what sucks for us is, I guess actually I don't think it sucks, but we can't use the cell phone cameras, and I think that's kind of good in a way.
I'm
there's
actually glad.
Yeah, because I talked like John Wright. Was telling
They'd
me-
really be running me ragged if we had cell phone cameras.
John Wright was telling me there, up in New Hampshire, there's guys that run 30, 40 of them, and I'm like,
That takes
come on, you know what I mean? And so I'm glad. Like, I mean, I have one, and it worked for 1 year, and then I buried it. So now, it's like, what do you do? I mean,
that one camera that you did have out though. Remember, you got a picture like at 4 a.m, a nice big 10-pointer.
Yep.
He actually went in there and saw the buck.
Yep.
But
no, I put all my cameras on scrapes. But like I said, I'll put my cameras out. Like this year, I never checked a single one. So, but Chris and Nate are like.
But he'll make mock scrapes too.
Yeah,
It's like,
I'll
he'll make a
make
mock
scrape
scrape right
wherever I
next
want.
to the scrape that's there, or 20 feet from it. Kick it all out, and the buck goes to that scrape. It's
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me?
I don't really know what I'm doing, but it doesn't matter because I don't check my cameras anyways. You know what I mean? So, but Chris and Nate, they run a lot of cameras and they're good at it, and we kind of rely on him.
Yeah, it's not totally true, but
But the
Yeah,
thing is, though, how many out of all the years, all these bucks you've had on camera, if we killed drop beam, we killed that buck, that 9-pointer you killed.
We actually
Maple buck.
we've killed more than you think because
Yeah.
I've looked through. Like I just found out the other night that I had that 8-pointer, the 201-pound 8-pointer on camera, but I didn't even realize it. But I had him the year
Right, from
before.
years, right.
Yeah,
Didn't I have that on my camera too?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
The same
It never
year.
seems like your target bucks that you are after, you kill.
it's less than 50-50.
Oh,
I would
way
say.
less.
Way
than that.
less, yeah. I mean, I've killed a few that we had on cameras, but I think it's definitely less than 50-50. And I think I just told you, it's to keep you out there. You're hunting the Adirondacks. Or,
But
I
you
don't
didn't,
even care
you
if
didn't
you're
answer. You didn't answer the question. Where do you set them up and why?
Simple.
Scrapes.
For me, simple. Scrapes. And I'm not talking stumbling upon a scrape. For me, it's over 20 years of hunting that area.
That
There's
scrape's
a
always
scrape there always every year.
Yeah.
That camera's staying there. But then you got them areas that Bob, or we all do, that this buck goes through here. All bucks go through here.
Yeah.
So, once trail cams are.
That one scrape that we were set up where Nate and I had the cameras close together.
Yeah.
They were. There was 5, 6, 7 bucks. That was the year you shot that muzzleloader buck.
Yeah.
There was 5, 6, 7 bucks working that scrape the whole summer.
Yeah.
The whole summer. It was tore up just like it was November 1st. The whole summer.
Yeah. They do hit them
Yeah, they do.
throughout the summer.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're.
But the scrape's got to be in the right spot. It can't be just not one of those.
It's not just a random scrape. It's
Right. It's a.
Big one.
It's one of them
Community.
scrapes that's there every
Community
year.
scrape.
You have cameras. Like a lot of times we leave them. They're on there all year.
Yeah. You guys sound like us though. It's like more of a sport and a hobby to do the game cameras. And I love to get like really good quality pictures too of
Yes.
bucks. So it's kind of just
My
it's like Christmas going to check the cameras.
my game room's got a lot of pictures like this, but a lot of pictures, the same exact pictures because we hunt together.
Oh
you know?
yeah.
I got more pictures on a wall of Eric and his bucks, and I got of my bucks.
Yep.
Well, that's
know
what
that-
makes you guys so endearing is that you're good. You're just a good group of guys that are you're down to earth. You don't mind having a few beers. You don't mind sharing in each other's successes, and it makes
actually-
you relatable. You know.
And actually, who's them dudes that were checking out the video of me shooting that 11-pointer that time, and I went, whoa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The hunting public, right?
Yeah,
the hunting public.
and it's like, and if you listen to the video, they go, did they disclose any of their spots? And it's like, all some dude's got to do is call us up and say,
yeah.
Yeah.
hey, you guys, would you take us on? And it's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, we take you on.
Bring a
It's-
30-pack, we will.
Yeah.
And another thing, when it comes to, in my opinion anyway, cameras, we know a lot of people. Like, a lot of people are, how do you get so many bucks? Like, I very seldom get a doe on camera. Very seldom.
And that's you, Chris. For some reason, I mean, we don't get the pictures he gets. You know what I mean? But
You got a knack for it.
It's not that I have a knack. It's,
right.
I mean, I personally, I just think it. So you see I'm not going to call it a deer trail because to see a deer trail in the Adirondacks is thin, but just an area where like you frequently see deer going through. That's probably not a great spot for a camera.
Yep.
It just isn't. It's a doe travel
highway.
spot, funnel down, call it what you want. But then you get to them bucky spots, that just feel right. You know what I'm talking about. You can tell they're, and you put a camera there, and then it's like bang.
You say that to people though, like a lot of people don't know that, but like
I feel like they do.
like the three of us would be walking up through there, and like especially I'll say, I just got to one of those spots where there's going to be a scrape here or there's going to be a rub. And sure as heck, there's a scrape and a rub, or there's 2-3 scrapes.
Right.
There's spots like you just walk through the woods and you go, oh, yeah.
One of the best, this is for sure, 100% truth, some of the best pictures I ever got, Woody turned me on to this spot. He did.
Yeah.
It was a mountain that I...
What was Woody lost?
So it's a mountain that I hunt frequently, but it's this mountain's huge.
Yep.
So it was bare ground day. We all just like, let's line hunt this mountain for the day until dark,
Yep.
Yeah, just try to. Yeah, line hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So we were halfway or past the halfway point of this mountain. It's miles long. And Woody was above me, if I remember right. And he calls me on the radio. He goes, "Chris, you hear me?" And yeah, I hear you, buddy. He goes, "You got a camera in your pack?" I go, "I got a couple." He goes, "You got to come up here." So I come up to this spot, and this was the weirdest spot to this day. I've never seen a spot like it on this mountain or any mountain that we hunt up there. It's like, it's not at the very top of the mountain. It's like a little bit down below the top, but not much. And there's like this clearing of grass. Like someone came in there 100 years ago and plucked every tree out of it, and there's nothing but grass there. And I don't know why it's like that. And all the way around this entire thing was scrape after scrape after. It was just tore up.
Yep.
So I'm like, all right, Woody, the chances of Woody blowing through there in the next couple weeks were slim, but he knew I would.
Yep.
So I threw up a few cameras there, and lo and behold, actually, I think the buck Eric got this year, that high rack, was one of the ones. But I got this buck I called the Big 9.
Yep.
Admiral. I don't know if you guys ever heard about Admiral, but Admiral, we've got a lot of history with
Yep.
this buck's. He was huge.
Well, it's just amazing, too. Like, for every buck that you think is out there, there's at least double that amount.
At least.
really is.
That's a good point.
Totally.
Yeah, and and how would you know that if you didn't have cameras in them buck spots where them bucks just blow through? So you say a buck that's going to come from 9 miles away. Well, he's going to go through them same spots that the bucks that live there go through.
Yep.
Why? Who knows why? It's a buck spot. That's where they travel through.
You ever been in an airplane in the Adirondacks?
Never.
There's mountain after mountain after mountain after mountain. And every single one of those mountains has, the big mountains got 2-3 bucks on them. The small mountains got 1 or 2. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of bucks. Mm-hmm. And that's where guys go, "Oh, they shot that big buck." Yeah, you might have shot that big buck, but there's another big buck that's going to be moving there tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah.
It's there's no shortage of bucks. If you walk through the woods and you kill the amount of bucks that you do, there's hundreds of bucks. There's not just 5 bucks up there wandering around.
Yep.
There might be 3 deer per square mile, but
Yep.
out of the 3, I think there's 2 bucks.
Yeah.
In some areas more,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
for sure, more.
Mm-hmm.
This is another thing, like, I don't consider myself a good tracker at all. I just don't. Will I track a buck? Absolutely. Who wouldn't? But I don't consider myself a good tracker. This is probably 8 years ago, going back to the camera thing.
Yep.
My buddy Rick come off this mountain. He had this great big buck. Had been all over that mountain that day, and he says, it was like a day-old track. So next morning, we're hiking up in, going to hunt this mountain, and boom, there's this great big buck track, and it's fresh, like damn smoking fresh.
Yep.
And I look, and I go, "Man, Rick," I said, "that thing's walking right towards one of my cameras." And I knew he was going to go through there because that's where bucks go.
Yep. Yep.
So Rick and actually my brother Josh was with me that day. And we had like 300 yards to go. Sure enough, that buck walked right by that camera. So I pull out the card and I throw it in my phone. I look at it. It's a great big 10-point, dark horns. And this was like at 9:15 in the morning or something. And that buck went through at like 7:45.
Ooh.
So I looked at Rick and Josh. I'm like, all right,
Game
we
on.
going to draw straws? I don't even know how it happened, but they were like, "No, just take it." So this is why I say I don't consider myself a good tracker. I took that buck and I just started going. And the whole time, this buck ain't doing. He's just going north. He's not going up the mountain checking for a doe. He's not going in the green. He's just going. Now, mind you, he went by that camera at 7:45 in the morning. It's daylight.
Yep.
He didn't change.
Yep.
So it gets to be 2 in the afternoon. I went a long ways. He north the whole time. And this is where Hunter Bob may have read that track a lot different than I would because of his experience.
Yep.
I was just going to go, I got to catch this buck. I wasn't catching that buck. You weren't going to catch that buck. But I had that picture, I just looked at him and I knew what he was.
But a lot of that is just time of the year,
It was time of the year, too. But I think what I took away from that hunt that day was, if you go for 2-3 miles and he is just trucking.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm not
he's
saying
not
this deer was running, but
Yep.
you could tell his stops. He didn't stop and rub. He didn't stop and scrape. He didn't swing up to that doe track. He didn't do nothing.
Yep.
But he could have, though.
He could have.
At any point, he could have caught on to a doe, and once he finds his doe, he's.
Yeah.
But you can, like when you're tracking them, a lot of times they'll be doing their thing. I was on one this year, and he was just walking. I go, oh, here we go. This buck is a killable buck. And the next thing you know, a mile into it, he picks up his pace. Next thing you know, he starts his buck trot, and he's running. Now there's does, and he's running around in circles, and it takes you an hour to figure him out.
Yep.
You might as well just say, hey, Bob, let's go find another one. That's one of those. You got to go do it, and you got to say, but who knows? You could walk
never
over.
know.
You walk over the next knoll, and he could be standing there with his doe. So you just. That's where persistence pays.
Persistence pays off,
but it's a lot easier to do that when you're a young man. Now I'm 57 years old, and this guy, after 6, 7, 8 miles, you're wore right the hell out, and you still got to get out.
Yeah.
So it's
and like this year, like what we had for conditions.
yeah, they sucked.
They sucked.
Yeah.
I think it was all over the Northeast, Maine, New Hampshire. I think it was
was.
everywhere. We had crunchy snow, most of the time. 4 years ago, I got on this great big buck track. I went 100 yards. He went up this mountain. Another kid got on his track. So I get on the radio. It's the first thing in the morning. I'm telling my son, I'm like, man, I'm kind of irritated by it. But
Yep.
I said, you know what? I'm just going to drop into this green. And I'm telling you, it was crunchy, solid crunch snow. And I caught another buck track. It wasn't as big as the first one, but I said, screw it. I'm going to take this buck. And I'll never forget. I think of Keith, our taxidermist, when it comes to this buck. And I always remember Keith telling this story about crunchy snow and grunting when he's tracking the buck.
For sure.
So I pull out my grunt, and I'm telling you, it was solid crust.
Yep.
So I take 2-3 steps, grunt, blow on the grunt, 2-3 steps, right. This went on for maybe 3/4 of a mile. I'm just picking through, grunting and stuff. I get to this, it's really thick. There was a small blowdown to my left, and I'm like, man, I wasn't too far from where this main skid line came down through, and I thought, Jesus, I didn't see that buck track come out of there. And I thought he was in there. Maybe he crossed out since I came in. I blew on that grunt one more time, and that buck jumped up in front of me 15 yards out of that blowdown. Like I'm telling you. Now, could I have gotten that close to that buck if I wasn't grunting? Guaranteed
No,
not, because
never.
that crunch was so loud that day.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, if there's anyone listening, don't be afraid to try. I mean, this year was a classic example of it sucked, like Bob said, with the crunch.
Oh, yeah.
I grunt constantly.
You get on that crunch, and it might buy you that 20 yards or 30 yards
For sure.
getting that much closer. And again, I don't consider myself a great tracker by no means, but I feel that helped me in that that spot to drop that buck the first shot. Done.
And bleating. The bleating, I think, seems grunting. I never used to bleat.
Yep.
Until Eric started, I bleated that deer, and I go, you bleated it.
Oh, for sure.
So now in the last 3-4 years, I've been bleating, and I shot that 10-point with you. I grunted a couple times, and I bleated a couple 2-3 times, and next thing I know, he turned right around, and he come back to me. And it's like,
Tipper can?
no, just
a regular bleat. Okay.
grunt call, and I
Yep.
just adjusted the read on
Okay.
it quick. And
Yeah, those tipper cans are nice.
So
out
just,
there, but
I
they're kind
think
of
we
a
should have Eric
clunky-
do this. Eric
Yes,
does
yes.
the best bleat with his mouth.
Okay.
It probably would sound like crap with the mic,
With-
though. But
He does.
It might not.
He's the best.
That's pretty darn
It
good.
is good. It is. It's amazing.
You guys must have heard his wolf howl, right?
In the video we did,
Yeah, it's-
yeah.
it's
Well,
on
I'm telling
all
you
the
what,
videos.
that thing, it sounds, if you're up on a ridge and he wolf howls, you swear to God it's a wolf.
Hair stands up in the back of your neck on that deal.
fierce predator.
And you're close to, Canada's the next state up, or the next place
Oh,
up.
I
so-
hope the hell we never get any of those. We got few deer as it
I
is,
know,
you know.
I know.
But-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll do one more question. We'll kind of wrap it up. So if you want to give yours to Woody, I'm just going to kind of go down the line here. I'm going to give your headset to Woody.
Yep, sure.
So one of the last questions we got is for a beginner that wants to hunt the Adirondacks, what's the biggest piece of advice you can give them? We'll go right down the line. We'll start with you, Chris. We'll go to Eric, Woody, and then Hunter Bob. Let me hand this off to you.
So for a beginner, what's the best advice you can give him?
Go hunt southern tier.
I'll just start. I got
Yeah,
something.
I mean, I can start too.
I just say, what we see for the most part, we normally say, you see trucks here and there going down the road and you say, man, there's hunters here, or somebody else might say, man, there's a bunch of hunters in here. But what we know is they're probably only a half mile, maybe a mile in the woods. And then I don't know if they get, nervous of going too far in the woods or they don't see any signs. So they say, screw this, I'm out of here, Just to keep pushing on further, you need to go further. I mean, you need to push past that mile, 2 miles, 3 miles.
Right. We call it the 3 mile mark. If very seldom, the three of us, very seldom do we kill a buck that's, well, this year we did. But most of the
First year
time,
ever, though.
we call it 3 mile mark. And that's, we never kill our bucks till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, usually. And it's always that 3 mile mark.
So if they're nervous about going too far, get used to your compass
Right.
and topographic map, so you're comfortable going 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And we pull up to new spots all the time and pull out of the truck and away we go. And we don't care where we go.
Right. You don't have to be familiar with it at all, just as long as you have the right equipment with you to make sure you can get out of the woods, but don't be afraid to go the extra mile and like I said, persistence always pays off.
It's hard to beat someone that never quits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Woody touched on something there, with, like a topo or the area. If you're a beginner, definitely study a topo, like for sure. That should be before you even step in the woods.
But there's a lot of
Learn how to use a compass.
Learn how to use a
how
compass.
to shoot an azimuth,
Look at the area
a bearing,
that you have in
all that
mind.
stuff.
Pick out 2 or 3 and study that topo.
but it doesn't. I mean, even if you're not using an app or a GPS or something, there's always like a main highway. So I went into the east. And back in the day, before there was GPSs and all that stuff, we used topo maps and paper ones. By the end of the day, they were soaking ass wet, and you ripped them. They're all in pieces. But you knew that east was out. You're going 5 miles, at the most. I mean, us guys will go 5 miles. And that road is to the west, so the west is out. Yeah, you're going to hit some swampy stuff. You might hit a lake, you might hit something, but west is out. So just check your compass. We very seldom, we all carry compasses, we all carry maps, and we always have our apps to get us out of the woods.
Yeah.
I think, like us anyway, 99% of the time we use that app.
Yes.
It's probably the most important tool that we use,
Yes.
besides our knowledge, of buck areas and stuff that we already talked
The-
about. But
the apps we
the
got
app
on our phone
and our radios to communicate a little bit the best you can
Right.
is probably key.
You also got to understand that we all were hunting the big woods before the apps even existed.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what
We-
I mean?
yes,
like
we were,
I
yeah.
when I went to Paul Smith's, I took surveying, and that was a real important class because it really taught me how to
Navigate.
navigate, and I was way more comfortable in the woods after that. Because we didn't have a phone. I mean, I had a GPS, and actually, one of the days I was hunting and I shot a buck way in the woods. The
GPS
batteries died, and it didn't have a card, so I turned it on. 3.5 miles of the woods, I had no points. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I knew how to read a map, and I had a good silva compass.
Yeah,
So.
basic knowledge.
But
always have a map. If you're
Yeah.
gonna go in them woods,
Just know what
Compass.
you're hunting.
you don't rely on it. I mean, it could go out tomorrow. It could go out, so you're back in the woods 5-6 miles. If you don't have a map and a compass and know how to use it, you're probably not going to fare too well. Especially, I got a story years ago. I was after this big buck. It was, I don't know, probably 4 miles from the road. And so the night before, I knew I had to go in 4 miles, come out 4 miles. And so I stripped down my pack down to nothing. And I have a survival pack in my pack. And that was the first year that my ex-wife bought me a GPS. And I said, these things are pretty cool, So I punched in number 55 was my pickup truck. So as I got going, I found a migratory run.
That was when there was no maps on the GPS. It was
right.
just numbers.
It was just numbers. So as I walked down through there, I found a migratory run. It had 3 points that come together, and I go, "Whoa, what a spot this is!" So
Saved it.
So I saved it, and it was 56. So now I'm coming along, and now it's 2:30 in the afternoon. It was, I probably had 12, 14 miles on back then, and every log I stepped over, my legs are cramping up. Well, I come across what I thought was the outlet of this lake, and it wasn't. And I go, oh boy. So I'm looking at the map, and now I'm getting nervous because it's 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's getting dark, and now the temperature's dropping like a rock. I had hardly any clothes on, and I go, you're okay. I said, just, you got matches, you got lighter, and I start digging through my pack. I was going to spend the night. I put all my safety stuff, because I was emptying my pack out, I left it home. Well, now no matches. My legs are cramping up. Who knows, 5 miles back in the woods, and I said, I got this stupid brand new GPS, and I'm punching in 56 instead of 55 where my pickup is. So it's telling me to go that way. The GPS is. Well, it wasn't the GPS fault. It was
Your fault.
my fault.
Yeah.
And so the GPS is telling me 56 is that way, and I'm looking at my map and compass. Now I'm nervous as hell, and it's like, all right, just settle down. You'll be okay, and get yourself out of here. GPS, no, they're brand new. Hell with these GPSs, map and compass. Let's go. So I start shooting down through there. Now it's dark, and it's like, well, all these creeks are going to go to the river. I said. So now I'm starting to run down through the woods, and it's like, keep your head, Bob. Just keep your head. And that's another thing. If you do think you're lost, don't be tearing through the woods. Just sit down, start a fire. You'll figure it out when it's light out. So I tell myself, well, don't follow the creeks. And I know what the creeks are. They're nothing but a tangled mess, balsam, spruce. And I go, don't do that. I go, just believe that map and compass. Believe you've done it your whole life. Don't get nervous. Just believe the map and compass. And I just went. And what I was doing is I was paralleling the trail the trail was only over there 400 yards. But I come onto this ridge, and I've been there one time ever in my life. And the guy tells me his old buddy used to sit there. And I looked at that spot, and I came in from the other, and I go, this is that spot. And I just turned, and I went up the ridge, and I hit the trail, and I was like, oh, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord. It would have been a cold, miserable night,
Yep. So I think navigation is key.
It is.
But what I tell everybody, my thing is to learn, have the ability to shoot, and use your ability.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to have, you may, but chances are you're not going to have a broadside shot at a standing deer, especially in the Adirondacks, especially if you're tracking. So learn how to shoot a lot, and be able to hit.
And when you do get that opportunity to shoot at one, you want to make it good.
Yep,
You
make
better
it work.
make it good. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Very seldom get a couple times a
Right.
year that you're going to.
I think we all, I'm going to drop back to, Eric when he did his intro. I think we all cut our teeth the same way, hunting the foothills of the Adirondacks first, for the most part.
A BB gun when
You know,
you were
whatever.
10.
Whether it's squirrel hunting or But that's kind of how we
Yep.
all started, and then we all, like Eric's case, his dad had a camp in the Adirondacks, and in my case, my grandfather had a camp in the Adirondacks, and so we all had that connection to it.
There's a lot of days, believe me, that I wish my crack addiction would go away.
There's a lot of days we wish it
Adirondack
would
crack.
too, Bob.
It's Adirondack crack.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like,
it's-
why do I have to do this every day, day in and day out?
It's funny. I mean, Bob's one of the best friends anyone's gonna ever have, and he's the most driven guy you're ever gonna be with. For
No, my-
sure. But I'm gonna tell you right now, he is the most miserable guy when he doesn't
God
get a
forbid
buck.
if you don't shoot a buck.
It's like
Well,
you
that
don't
happened
even
2
want to be
years
in the
ago.
same county with
2 years
him.
ago, I spent every single day in the woods, from muzzleloader season till the end of season. Every single day in the woods, I saw one little 3-point buck. Most years, I'll see 15 bucks, 10, 15 bucks. One 3-pointer in 40 days of hunting. I mean, it's like going to work for a month and not getting a paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
It gets aggravating as hell. My ex-wife always asks me, she goes, why couldn't you just be a fisherman?
She got you there.
Yeah, and he probably should have been.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, for sure. I want to go back to what your comment about shooting, because I see in like YouTube comments as more and more Northeast content comes out and stuff like that, and podcasts and all that stuff. A lot of guys that listen in and from like out of state and stuff don't understand about shooting when it comes to hunting the big woods. Like everybody thinks that listens that's from out of state or whatever, that it's got to be the perfect broadside shot. And what we do, in the big woods is you got to shoot, and if you just get a crack, and when you get one bleeding on blood or on snow, you're gonna get that deer. And a lot of people don't understand that. So
He had
exactly, yeah. And a lot
he
of
had
people
that
don't understand
comment. I shot that big 10-pointer there a few years back, and I caught him in his bed. I shot him in his bed. He jumped out of his bed. I cracked him again before he got out of his bed. Good thing, because I just skunned him across the front the first shot. And then I hit him a little bit back as he was leaping out of the bed. And I got blood on the snow. And then I just see like little flicks of them. And I pulled the trigger again. If you're seeing flicks of that deer, you better be pulling the trigger.
You're shooting, absolutely.
And I mean, it was thick, just like this. I couldn't say, "Oh, there's a nice vital shot." I'm pulling the trigger. It doesn't matter. And I ended up shooting 7 times at him, and I hit him 5 out of 7. And then people get on his page there and say, "Well, you walk right up on a deer. Why don't you finish him off?" And it's like, it's within seconds. The deer's dead. He was not going nowhere. He was gasping, and that's his nerves kicking. He was, by any means, I would have shot him again if I thought I needed to shoot him.
Absolutely.
But Bob, you know what it is though? Is I think that most of these people that are commenting about that are living in their mom's basements, that they've never shot a deer at 30 yards, right? We shoot a deer, we can get to it in 10 seconds.
Right.
These guys shoot a deer oftentimes from a tree stand, and it's oftentimes a marginal shot, and they let it lay for 2 hours before they go look at it. Right? So their justification is they let the deer lay there for 2 hours to die before they get to it.
The all out of sight, out of mind thing.
Right?
Yep.
So how any other person can shoot an animal more ethically than I can is a bunch of crap, because it ain't happening.
Yep.
All right? That's the bottom line. So I don't
I do have a good, just to finish this whole deal off. Back years ago, I was in Alaska, and I come home and I check my trail cameras, and I'm not the guy that checks your trail. I usually get a crotch horn or something on my trail cameras, back years ago. And so I checked this trail camera, and it's, I think, bow season, I think it was. And well, I was scouting, and there was a rub on a tree. It must have been one of those scrapes that they've been using. Well, there was, I don't know, there was 2, 3 8-pointers. This one 8-pointer had to be 18, 20 inches wide. There was another 8-pointer. There was a great big 10-pointer. There was a couple 7-pointers. And it's like, I checked this camera out, and I go, whoa! I go, check this out. Well, so I sit there the first day. I don't have no tree stand, nothing. There was like an old cherry log that went up, and so I got up in there. First time I sat in there, here comes I had a bunch of pictures of this 8 and 10 fighting right in front of the camera. I mean, I had hundreds of pictures, and it's like, and that never happened to me ever in my life. So here comes this 8-pointer out. First time I sat there, it's the steam's rolling out his nose, and I go, oh, that 10-pointer's right behind him. He was like 15-inch wide 8-pointer, which if I could see a buck good, I'm not shooting a 15-inch wide 8-pointer. So I go, oh, that 10-pointer's right behind him. Well, and I hear a deer behind him, but he blows, he takes off running, so I don't get no shot. And so now I climb down out of this cherry tree, and I'm checking my pictures, and I go, damn, I go, they're here every morning, but they're a half an hour before light, and they're a half an hour after dark, but they're there every single day. And I'm not the dude that sits there till pitch black. I'm half an hour before dark, an hour before dark. I'm making my way out. I go, I'm sitting here till pitch black tonight. So I sit there, and next thing I know, not going to see nothing. I mean, it's right at the verge of not being able to shoot. Legal shooting hours. I get my pack on. Get my pack on. I go to climb down, and I hear, I look, and here comes, which I think is a 20-inch 8-pointer. I go, you're kidding me. Here he comes, 30 yards broadside. I grunt, and he stops behind a tree. His shoulder is sticking out, but his lungs are behind a tree. So I put it right there on the bone of his shoulder, pull the trigger, goes right in a heap with my muzzle loader. It's like, are you kidding me? I got a 20-inch 8-pointer. I scoot down the tree, pack up all my stuff, go over there. I get my camera out. He's laying on the ground. He's just...
Yep.
I start taking pictures of him. And this is when your cameras come out with the discs. It says disc lock. And I go, disc lock. I go, wonder what that means. I go, something wrong with the disc. So I reach in my pack. I get another disc out. I put it in the camera. Start taking pictures of him. Disc locked. I go, that's weird. And all of a sudden the buck goes. He looks at me. He looks at me right in the eyes, and I go, whoa! And I threw the camera on the ground. I grabbed my gun. I didn't load my gun. He was dead.
Thought he was dead.
I climbed down out of that tree, go over to him. It's like, are you? So I'm fumbling for all my stuff, and my rifle. It used to be where I could pull my trigger. It had trigger pull terrible, and I could just like pull it, and then it would squeeze. Well, my muzzle loader was hair trigger, and I bring it down before I was even settled in on him. I touch the trigger, and it blows right over his back, and I go, oh, my God. Now the thing rolls down the hill. He's upside down, great big 10-pointer, 135, 40-inch buck. He's on his back, all four legs kicking. I go, he's not going nowhere. I pack another one in there. He stands up. He takes off running. Never saw him again.
Oh God!
Didn't he cross the river or something, Bob?
I think he died in the river. I think he swam the river and died because I had blood to the river, and I went and got Keith, and we had blood to the river, and went across the river. There was no blood, and he never came out on the other side. So I think I killed him, but he just.
Big learning lesson there, huh?
Yep.
Oh
man!
I had my knife right there, and I go, stab him in the throat, and I go, no way, you're gonna mount this thing. I think he's beautiful. Yeah. Well, guess what?
I think you're too far ahead.
He's not dead till he's dead.
Oh, man. Yeah, what's it? Rodney Elmer says, "What? They're not dead till you're standing on their head."
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yep.
That was a lesson. Bad lesson.
That one probably hurt for a minute, didn't it?
Oh, so bad.
It still hurts him. Can't you tell?
He was a big buck. I mean, I got a lot of really nice bucks, but he was
He's a dandy.
He was up there with the best of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
still
man.
hurts.
With that maple buck that we started the story with, was that the best buck you guys have gotten out of the group and stuff? What, 150 something inches?
Yeah,
Yeah,
154.
Wow, incredible. Wow. Well, I guess we can start wrapping up. Do you guys have anything else you want to add before we close it out? Anybody?
No, I don't think so.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Until
Hunt
next year.
stock.
Yeah.
We're going to hunt stock.
Oh, you're coming to Hunt Stock. Good.
Yep.
You guys got a booth? Gonna get a
We're
booth?
going.
in there?
A booth?
Yeah, we're going.
It's
yeah,
awesome.
we're gonna get a
Yeah.
booth. We're going.
There you go.
Stop by, say hi.
Yeah, no, it's a good event. We did it last year, so
Yep.
it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you guys doing
All right.
this
Yeah,
with
man.
us, and
It's good talking.
a lot of guys wanted you on, so I know there'll be a lot of guys happy to listen to this. So
That's
thanks,
pretty
fellas.
wild. I can't believe it.
Right?
Seriously,
I
because
know.
we are just average guys.
He says,
Yeah, just
they
normal.
want to do a podcast about it. I go, what, drinking beer?
I tried to tell him, I go, you just need to talk to Bob. I go, he's got the craziest stories as Gilmore Bucks.
Man, I mean, we had the lattes going here tonight. You look down the bar here. We got a few going here, so
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah.
we had a good time for sure. So thank you guys
Yeah,
for doing
appreciate
this.
it.
We'll have to
Yeah.
do it again sometime.
thank
and,
you.
See you guys on the next one.
Right on.
Perfect.